You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind.
With the emergence of global internet, a human population of several billions, an electronic noosphere, that we are now within the shadow of this transcendental object at the end of time.
I find it a little difficult to say what the subject matter is going to be, because
Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Shake and bake, steps back, three-pointer,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned your galactic frequencies to the hottest show in the cosmos. It is the Midnight Variety Hour. I'm your host, Tom, joined as always by my good friend and lovely co-host,
your boy Adam.
And we are coming to you through the miracle of the internet while it still remains a sane place. We're joined by a great friend of the show, Aaron, joining us via Zoom today. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. What an intro. I love that.
Yeah, you look like you're in like the Hilton or something right now. Is that like the
No, this is my apartment leasing office area.
Let's just act like it's your actual place, because if your place looked like that, you'd be fucking balling. God damn. I feel like the furniture in like apartment event spaces and like the leasing office, I feel like you never see that type of furniture anywhere. It just looks like this is either from a hotel or an apartment, leasing office,
Right. Yeah.
It's always like weirdly tall or some shit like that. And it's just like, where's this furniture coming from?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Adam's wearing a great shirt today. You can't see it, Aaron, but it's very cool.
Oh,
I'm
thanks,
a big
man.
fan.
Appreciate
It's your
it.
second cool shirt in a row. Yesterday you had a cool shirt on too.
Thanks. Appreciate that. My wife got it for me.
Nice.
Went
Shout
out
out to Bree.
shopping.
She picks out good shirts.
Yep. And
so-
then we have and we can't just bypass
Oh,
your alien
yeah.
who's just sitting here on your mic stand.
So
and
this is our little gray friend here. I think we like the idea of calling him Lazar after the amazing, incredible Bob Lazar. A fitting tribute. We got a little gray alien here. This was made by Jesus Garcia, who was on the show maybe a month ago or a few episodes ago. He's an amazing designer. He has a bunch of 3D printers and stuff, and he was like, let me 3D print you something for the show. What would you like? And I was like, alien.
So if you go on YouTube, you can see Mr. Lazar.
Yeah.
Hanging on Tom's mic here.
Definitely. So we're going to call him Lazar, and I like having him here on the mic, but I'm just realized like right before the show that when I look down my mic, I have to look right into his little gray ass crack here, which is fine, I guess, but he does have a little butt. I'm trying to find Jesus's Instagram real quick so I can shout him out.
Yeah, he did it on his 3D printer.
Yes, grca.design on Instagram. If you want to follow Jesus Garcia, the man that 3D printed this little alien and many more cool items, check him out over at gcra.design on Instagram. Now, Aaron, we're here today to talk about something that is terrifying and maybe even exciting, Web 3.0 and the Metaverse. It was announced, I think, about a month ago that Facebook was changing their name to Meta and subsequently launching what they're calling the Metaverse, which sounds like it's straight out of a Black Mirror episode, looks like it's straight out of a Black Mirror episode, and now it's something that we're all going to be living with very soon. As you guys probably all know, Facebook bought Oculus a while ago, which is a huge name in the virtual reality game. It's a virtual reality interface and platform for lots of digital content. Aaron, are you familiar at all with VR? Have you ever messed around with the whole VR thing? Have you ever played any VR games or anything?
No, I am definitely inexperienced in that. I've never used any kind of VR headset or goggles or anything like that.
What about you, Adam?
No, I haven't had the chance. I want to, but I have multiple friends who have, and they all tell me how awesome it is.
Yeah.
There's this one game where I saw one of my friends playing. He posted a video of it. I guess he recorded it and put it up on the internet. And it was like this zombie game where he was like just being able to pick up materials and have to kill zombies that are just coming after him. It's basically like Call of Duty zombie whatever mode, and just virtual reality, and it looked insane.
Right.
But like he was like picking up bow and arrows and shooting bow and arrows and like doing all this crazy stuff, and it just looked wild. Like, but he was able to do all of that through VR, and it looked insane. Like really good accuracy and all that. And I was like, wow. It looked crazy, yeah.
I've seen people on YouTube play a lot of VR games. I've done very basic VR. Like, I've worn a VR headset, and I've just watched, like, videos in VR.
Right.
Like, a roller coaster ride video where and then you look around and it's like you're on the roller coaster. I've done shit like that.
I am going to a VR event coming up very soon. It's a surprise that I'm meeting up. So I'll tell you later. I can't say it on the show.
Yeah, no, you told me what it was before, and I remember.
I'm excited for that.
I won't say what it is, but the other day I was watching YouTube and I saw an ad for it. And like the ad kind of showed like a walkthrough of what it's going to be like, and it looks very exciting.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So VR is an exciting part
and
of
it's taking
technology.
Off, yeah.
I mean, because there is so much you can do with it, and there's so many applications for it. Right now on ISS, astronauts are using it to basically do like run simulated tests on how to fix things, like because it's so accurate where they don't have to touch any material, but they can accurately depict what that would be like if you had to fix a busted pipe or whatever on the ISS, and they're able to do that through virtual reality. It's insane. So
it has real world applications that are completely harmless and super helpful. However, there are a lot of other ways I feel like VR can eventually become a detriment to society. It's getting increasingly and it's getting more and more real. And it's being pushed harder and harder. Like I don't know if you guys watched the Summer Olympics a few months ago. But Oculus was just putting out ads. Like it would be like you'd watch an event and like every 2 or 3 minutes, bam, Oculus ad.
Right.
And it was all about how like, you're all at home and like can't go out, do like your little skateboarding shit. It was like a skateboarding group on Facebook and they're like, oh man, we can't go outside and skateboard. Well, let's all just meet up in VR and like talk about skateboarding and like ride our skateboards in VR and shit. Yeah.
I remember that ad.
So it's like being advertised everywhere. And I remember when VR first launched, it was like kind of corny and cheesy and shit like that. But now there's like handheld apparatuses so that you're actually moving your hands and shit.
It's serious now. It's not like
There are VR chat rooms where people have avatars and they go in and they're just like having communications with people. So you've seen the ads for Metaverse, or you saw at least from what I gathered from when we were talking right before we started the show, you saw a little bit of what they were talking about with Metaverse, right?
Yeah, and I saw how weird Mark Zuckerberg looked.
He's very weird.
He's like unemotional. Definitely, it just came off as ungenuine. It just like a very.
He's a weird guy.
Plastic, like feel commercial. Yeah,
he's like a weird little lizard man. I really dislike him, and I get such a weird vibe from him. Everything about him just creeps me the fuck out. But okay, that's besides the point. What would you say? Could you just summarize what you saw and how you felt they described the Metaverse? Like, what did you gather from what you saw with what the Metaverse is going to be?
Well, from what I saw on the ad they put out, which is really all I saw about it, was it's this VR world that you can create with other people. You have an avatar that you can. It's all customizable. Everything from your look, your environment, all the entertainment that you consume can be shared, and I don't know, maybe manipulated in some way. Gaming, movies, shows, everything would be all inclusive. Right. That's what I got.
Yeah, I mean,
and
you're
shareable.
You're gonna be able to go into spaces with people who have other avatars representing themselves and have conversations, watch a movie, watch a show, build your own space, tour a space constructed by somebody else, purchase things for your avatar, purchase items for like your little home, purchase different experiences like going to a show in the Metaverse. You can purchase property in the Metaverse and put things on that property that you can make money off of. So you could, I think someone just paid a bunch of money for a piece of land in the Metaverse, which I don't even know, how do people even have access to this shit already? I thought Metaverse hadn't launched yet, but I just read that somebody paid millions of dollars. I think it was like 3.5. That number's probably super wrong, but it was like, I just remember that it was millions of dollars, and they bought a piece of Metaverse in like this fashion area of the Metaverse, and they're going to use that space to hold digital fashion shows where, fashion brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton will be able to have fashion shows in the Metaverse.
Right.
And so I was watching Mark Zuckerberg describe this, and it was really weird. He was saying almost anything you can think of represented in the physical world, you'll be able to bring into Metaverse with you.
Right.
And the way he was describing it, it just sounded like they were. He didn't make it apparent that this was the direct goal, but it was like you could see that the goal would be to cut off any need for you to actually be in the real physical world. Why be there when you could just bring everything into the Metaverse, which is so much better?
That's exactly what I got.
Yeah, you could have an apartment in space and watch that movie that you were going to watch on your TV in your house. Just watch it in your intergalactic apartment in the Metaverse. Why would you watch it in your living room? You know, why would you sit next to your girlfriend on the couch when you can sit next to, you know, your avatars can sit together in outer space and watch the movie? You know, it's shit like that. Like, you know, your clothes. Maybe you'll even be able to scan those and bring those into the Metaverse.
Dude, I can't lie. That sounds really awesome. Can you imagine just us like all chilling on some spacecraft with just like galaxies in the background, chilling? Like that's awesome. It sounds amazing.
There's
right?
a lot of things that sound amazing about VR. The NBA has a VR experience where they have a camera mounted courtside, and you can sit with your friends and watch the game as if you're all sitting courtside.
Yeah, it does sound pretty
cool. And you
cool.
can sit there and look up and down the court. It's a 3D camera mounted courtside at an NBA game. And you're wearing a VR headset, your avatar sitting next to me, Aaron's avatar is sitting next to me, and we're all at the Lakers game. And we can look down the court and, you know, everything's happening in real time. We're watching the game as if we had $10,000 seats.
Yeah. The one...
That sounds amazing.
No, it does. And I think the one negative thing I heard people talking about, like long-term use of it, that they get disoriented very easily. Yeah. So within like, I don't know, either the first hour or a couple hours, people are very disoriented, and then you have to take it off and take a break because you get dizzy or you get nausea, sick, like almost like you like car sickness kind of thing. I heard people report on it, but so they're definitely like a lot of like kinks and stuff they're gonna have to work out. It's still fairly new, but I can see this just growing and expanding into no longer it's goggles, it's gonna be something else, and then eventually we're going to be just plugging in. And
it'll be a whole apparatus where you're able to feel things that happen to your avatar.
Right.
I mean, the VR porn industry is already taking off. As soon as you can get your dick sucked in VR, like, dude, no one's going to like leave the house anymore. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I've heard that people have said if you spend a lot of time in VR, when you come out, the real world doesn't feel real.
Right.
Your brain and your senses start to adapt if you spend enough time in it to where that world starts to feel like the real world. And coming out of it, everything feels like a bit fake or not like the way it's supposed to.
Right.
So while there are really cool things, like you can watch an NBA game courtside or, you know, build your own little space apartment or whatever in the year 2350, you also have the terrible, you know, threat of like this real world no longer becoming real to you. So
you just think about the long-term use. Like this thing is just being implemented now. We're just now figuring out, I mean, we have for a little bit known this, but it's been stopped by these media companies have so much control over lobbying, and they're spending millions and billions of dollars to lobby to make sure that people don't know the real harms.
No, Lazar.
We're losing Lazar.
He's trying to,
we got him. We brought him back.
Beam out of here.
But like, there's a lot of negative aspects to having cell phones and the internet now. Like, there's obviously we know depression and anxiety and all these things have skyrocketed when people started using their cell phones and social media, right? So, but that's not being talked about as much, and there's no like warnings on your phone. I mean, there's a couple warnings that I can show people that I actually discovered with radiation that's on your iPhone. But as far as like just the mental aspect of it all, we're just giving this stuff out at mass population like a giant human experiment and trying to see, all right, how does the internet and social media work when everyone can have it in their pocket? And we're seeing a lot of negative aspects to it, right? And we're just figuring that out. And now we're just going to throw in VR into the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're just going to throw in virtual reality and like already into the system that's already messed up. And there's these social media groups have way too much power and influence. And, you know, it's going to get out of hand because there's no rules of like, what's the proper amount of time you should be in one? You know what I mean? Or be in VR. And then what are all of the other aspects that come with mental health and all this? So it's a whole nother side of it.
So let me ask you guys this while I fix Lazar. If I offered, you know, you guys the opportunity to beta test the metaverse, if I was going to give you an Oculus headset, I was going to give you the hand apparatuses, whatever physical hardware you needed, and I said, you'll have access to check out the metaverse and use it and kind of just mess around with it. The only stipulation is you have to use it for 3 consecutive hours a day. 3 hours a day you have to. Would you be up for trying that experience just to see what it's like, or would you?
Yeah.
Do you not care enough to?
No, I would try it. I would try it. Yeah.
How much time
I
do
don't
you
care.
think you
I
could?
wouldn't care enough about. I would not do that.
Really?
I mean, it depends on your lifestyle.
Right.
I mean, being a father really creates a sense of responsibility to a lot of things that I take a part of, and that's one thing that I wanted to bring up with you guys about like personal responsibility, because how much regulation and power should we give authorities like the government to say what you can and can't do,
Right.
when it comes to stuff like this, like metaverse or social media? Because obviously certain things that we consume and do, like smoking cigarettes, you got their warning labels. A lot of substances are illegal.
Mhm.
We don't allow children to watch or consume certain media to a certain age without adult supervision and stuff like that. So, Adam, you sent me a video from Vice that kind of broke down why we should be afraid of the metaverse and what's coming. And I got a sense of that they were kind of insinuating we needed some control and regulation in this field of technology. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, should we be giving the government the authority to say what we should and shouldn't consume, or should that just be like personal responsibility? Because I think it's a big question, because a lot of kids nowadays getting into this are really, like you were saying, Adam, having a lot of depression and anxiety issues, low self-esteem.
Yeah, and we know that, right?
And we know that. And it's just difficult to measure because it is psychological. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like, where do we go from there? I mean, I have no idea what the metaverse is going to look like. I don't think really anyone does. I mean, we can think about it, but what are the long-term implications of getting our children, especially, who are a lot more vulnerable to this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean,
what do we do with that?
I think you brought a great point up about cigarettes and the way we put giant warning signs on cigarette boxes. Like, yes, people know whenever they buy it that it's bad for them, but people don't know that right now with social media. Not everyone does. Like, some people, I think it's growing, but
Because it seems and feels harmless. All
Right.
people know is that it's fun and they get to
Yes.
connect with people, and everything on the surface, it looks great.
right. But
But-
there's not. But it's like
Being
whenever you
harmless,
pull up
right.
Instagram, there's not a warning sign. Hey, make sure if you spend X amount of time on this app, you could suffer from blank, 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 or whatever. You know what I mean? Just like so people know and are aware of it. That's really what it's about. Because you're not going to be able to control the amount of time people get on it. You know, who's watching it, who's getting on social media, and all these things. But what you can do is at least make the public aware of the dangers and harms of it, right?
I mean, what do you think what do you think about what China's doing with limiting age groups on social media and even gaming and stuff like that? I mean, I don't know if y'all have been on TikTok, but I have TikTok, and I'll go on there sometimes. And you'll even see ads from TikTok saying you'll be scrolling, and it's so addictive that you'll scroll, and TikTok will put an ad on there saying, "Hey, stop, take a drink, get some water, do something," because they know that
Stretch,
it's so manipulative
breathe,
and
yeah.
so addictive that kids are spending hours. They're not getting enough sleep.
All right.
They're not socializing in real.
I didn't know
in real
TikTok did that. That's got to be the first time I've ever heard of a social media platform telling people like, "Hey, chill out on our platform for a second and take some time to just like recoup."
Yeah, and so that's
So-
another aspect of it I was going to talk about too, was when we're bringing in this VR and this whole metaverse and Web 3.0, is that whenever you're in these worlds, you know, like you're going to get lost in time. There's going to be no sense of time in these worlds. You know what I mean?
I mean, that already happens
24
to
hours
me.
is going to feel like nothing.
Sure,
You know?
that already happens to me when I'm playing like PS4.
Right. And
I'll sit down to play Red Dead Redemption or Mass Effect or whatever,
Right.
or like literally almost any game.
Yeah.
And I'll look up and I'll be like, "Oh, it's 2 a.m. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
Like you just
and
like.
and
don't
now
even
just
realize-
imagine in a whole nother world where you can't even look out the window.
You can't even see outside.
There's no
yeah.
sun, nothing. So, but then also, we know that these social media companies understand the psychology behind humans and how to manipulate their attention and how to make it addicting. People are actively making these things more addictive. And so what is that going to look like in the VR world? Like, you think that they're just going to create open worlds where they're not going to add in little addictive things where it's like they're going to make you want to come back and keep coming back? They know this, right? So it's like you have people actively fighting for your awareness and for your attention, right? There's tons of companies. I mean, that's already happening now with ads and, you know what I mean, and other things where like people want to get your attention to buy my product or whatever it is, right? So it's like you add that into this. It just seems like with what we have now, with the systems we have in place now, the way our culture is now, and you add in something like the metaverse, I can only see it going down the same path that it has already been going down, right? It's not, I don't see this becoming like, they talk about, you know, like being able to be super creative and all this, but I don't think it's really going to happen. I think it's going to be controlled. Like the metaverse is going to have so much control over what you're doing. You're going to have freedom to build and do these cool things, but ultimately you're still refined within these constraints of that world, and it's only gonna, I feel like it's just gonna devolve into people wearing freaking unicorn onesie costumes and
it's exactly
and
what
just
it's
doing
gonna be.
stupid stuff, you know what I mean? And
Right.
it's not, you're not doing anything productive, you know?
And they've already removed net neutrality. So the
Right.
groundwork is there for parts of the internet to be owned and controlled
Right.
by companies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Initially, we thought of net neutrality as just like, okay, AT&T will strike a deal with Netflix, and then it'll be like you can only go to Netflix if you have AT&T. Otherwise, you know, your stream speed will be super slow or something like that. So, but I mean, like, we didn't even think about how the lack of net neutrality would apply to a space like the metaverse, where digital property can be owned and controlled by corporations and shit like that. Anyway, that's just like another
No,
side
it's a
thought.
huge, that's a huge part of what happened recently in the past few years, along with so much of what we need to talk about with social media sites feeling like they have the power to ban people. Like all of these things have changed within the internet. The past 2 years have been probably one of the most dramatic changes we've seen in the internet. I feel like, at least. What do you think, Aaron?
I completely agree.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
There seems to be like this new age of information control. Like wherever you go, wherever you are online, it just seems like some kind of curated information that's laid out to you. And it for me, it makes it difficult to ask real questions, because it's almost like I'm told what to think instead of making up my mind for myself.
Right.
I mean, that's like a broad general explanation, but that's the feeling I get, because I use DuckDuckGo as the search engine a majority of the time now, because if I want to look up some kind of information, especially, I mean, this is controversial, but of vaccine information, if I want to look up some facts about the studies, or I want to look at the actual data myself, I mean, if you look up stuff on Google, it seems so filtered and very mainstream. If you do the same search on DuckDuckGo, I mean, you could do it right now. You could just Google anything. Even if it's like some kind of health related, you just look up remedies and stuff, and you use DuckDuckGo instead, you're going to find a lot more options. Whereas Google is going to have a lot of warning signs and like, hey, this is not true, or this is like whatever data. So I don't know. I feel like the information nowadays on the internet is very filtered, and social media is playing a big part in that. It's almost like they're teaming up and like getting people to, like, it's all about manipulation of your attention and profit, to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I remember when I saw, you know, the FCC has repealed net neutrality. I remember just thinking, here we go.
That's it. I mean, that's it. That's it. Once that's gone, it's never coming back, right? Never coming back.
Usually when some sort of power or control is given up or relinquished, never comes back.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too much power now in these people's hands.
Yeah. And it laid the framework to make Metaverse, you know, a million times more scary than it actually is, you know?
Right. So
that's what I'm worried about with Metaverse, because of corporation and ad placement in the Metaverse.
Right.
Like, how much data is going to be collected? I mean, we're already listening to Edward Snowden talk about NSA and data collection and spying, and like we where's the small print going to be in this metaverse? Who's going to read it, and who's going to care enough to read it? And that's another question I have. That's another worry I have. I'm excited actually for the technology. The technology itself isn't bad. It's how we use it. Like y'all were talking about, flight simulations and education aspect of this technology is going to be phenomenal. But the entertainment and manipulation and profit motives behind this technology is what's really dangerous to me.
For sure. And it's like people are going to build this whole life for their digital self. Like they're going to create a new life that is more impactful to them than their real life.
Dude, just imagine Sims on VR.
I know. But imagine yourself becoming your digital self, and then that self being owned by Meta. Like
exactly.
You eventually will become no longer your own, because you will immigrate into this world where your new life is your digital life, and you're owned by Meta.
Right. So
like you don't even own yourself at that point anymore. Once your real life becomes, what's the secondary to your digital life.
Right. But that brings up a good transition here, because I want to talk about Web 3.0 for a second, because that's what Metaverse is going to be running on.
Sure.
Okay, and so I'm just going to read this because it's still above my head. I understand just the bearings of it, but it says Web 3.0, the new breed of the internet, right? So this is, right now we're operating on Web 2.0.
1.0 was just your standard text on screen, web pages and stuff like that.
Yeah, just pure text, no like user interface. It was just literally just look up like an article or something.
So now Web 2.0 came along with the inception of digital media on the internet.
Yeah.
Videos, streaming music, streaming digital content beyond just words on a screen, right? That was Web 2.0, which is what we're living in now.
Right. Yeah, and it gave the user the opportunity to upload things, to and interact with other people and all that.
Right, communicate. Yeah, okay.
Right.
All right, so what's 3.0 then?
Yeah, and so 3.0, this is the future of the internet. It aims to be a decentralized version of the virtual world. Okay, what does that mean? Where users can interact and collaborate intelligently without worrying about the central data-specific repositories. What does that mean? Overall, it will be more of a peer-to-peer internet with no single authority, which I understand. I get that part. It will be more of a peer-to-peer internet with no single authority, right? So I think what that's referring to is that Google will no longer be like people's mandatory like search engines anymore, but it's
not now.
For example, no, it's not. But you know what I mean? Like where if you're on the internet and you go, say you want to do anything, you pull up Google to go search for things, or go into Facebook or wherever however you use Google, but everything's through Google, right? So it's like that's what you're using, versus 3.0. I feel like it's just gonna be an open world. It's gonna be like an open, interactive thing. Like I don't know. It just sounds more. Here's the peer-to-peer internet thing to me sounds more like everyone's going to be able to own their own thing. So it's like now it's going to be this crypto-based, NFT-based user, environment where everyone's going to own their own thing. So like if you upload things onto YouTube, YouTube owns that, right? It's maybe your material, but if you upload it on YouTube, they have the right to do whatever they want with it. They can now play ads over your content, right? So if you upload something, they can make money off of it. Even if you're not making money on it yet, if say you don't have that many views yet and you're not an official YouTuber, they're making money on your content.
Right.
Okay? You don't own that, right? And now with the ability, I think with the NFTs and everything, whenever you upload something, you don't have to upload it to YouTube. You can just keep it you can keep your print on it, your NFT, your signature,
your blockchain,
right?
Encryption or whatever. Yeah,
that's yours. You own it. Now you can, if you want, you can sell it, or you can just put it out to people. But ultimately, it's still going to be yours, right? So that aspect of it sounds really cool to me.
Sure.
Now, where the virtual world comes into play, that's where everything just gets very gray, because there's going to be a limitless amount of possibilities. But ultimately what Web 3.0 is going to be is whatever the users make it, right? So the metaverse is going to be running on it. That's going to be one aspect. That's going to be one thing you can do on Web 3.0, right? Just like anything else now. But not everything else that's going to be on Web 3.0. I don't know. I think it's going to be up to users because people are going to be creating worlds and creating all these different things that we've never seen before because now that all these possibilities are opened, right? So that Web 3.0 sounds really crazy. I don't know what to think of it. You know, it's so hard to imagine what it's going to be like, you know? So
I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
The more I hear about it,
yeah,
the more I'm like ready to get off the internet.
it sounds wild, man.
It really is crazy. And for younger people like Autumn, Web 3.0 is going to be the first internet. Oh, and shit, there might be 4.0 by the time she's like on the internet. But I'm just saying that will just be the standard for the internet for her. You know, this like 3.0 internet. So I don't know. It's really, I mean, we've talked about NFTs a lot on this show with multiple people and multiple different guests. And I've admitted, I think it sounds cool. I like the idea of being able to generate your own personal property that you own very easily and digitally and make money off it. And it always belongs to you. And I like the idea of the little guy being able to generate his own wealth. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. It just feels crazy. This idea of like NFTs just being everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
I guess maybe it only feels crazy because it's so new and it's so different.
It
And
is.
It's
It is.
like
That's why.
something that we've never been completely saturated in before. So our bodies are like, what? No, it doesn't even make sense.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, would you say you're more nervous or more excited about Web 3.0, Adam?
Yeah. You know, honestly, it sounds interesting and new. And, you know, like I want to be open to it before I'm nervous and scared about it. I know we just talked about a lot of the negative aspects of social media and the new technology that people are using. But, you know, on top of that, like I love the information and opportunities I've had through the internet and through things like YouTube and other things. It's been incredible. Like, I don't know if I would have the same amount of information I would if it wasn't for the internet today, you know? And so I can't imagine what, like, say 20 years from now is going to look like with Web 3.0 or whatever the new versions are, whatever the technology is. I only hope that we can still, there will be the opportunity for people to still use it for their own benefits, like for getting money. Because like, I feel like with 3.0, like I'm going to be looking into taking advantage of making money on it, especially when it's new. There's going to be so much, just the fact of it being brand new and the opportunity to make money. If I can do something on there that's going to generate good for people and I can make money on it, that's what people are doing right now on YouTube and other things, right? So
And
it's like
a lot of these things that sound crazy,
yeah,
like you look back 5 or 10 years later and you wish you got in on the ground, like Bitcoin. If I could go back in time and get in on the ground floor of Bitcoin and invest when Bitcoins were going for like fucking $15 a coin or whatever, and now they're worth, I don't know, like north of 50,000 a coin. I don't know how much a Bitcoin is right now, but I imagine it's like above 50 grand a coin.
right.
When Bitcoin came out, I was like, this is fucking insane. This is weird. Like, I'll never have any use for this. When NFTs came out, I thought, this is crazy. This is weird. I'll never have any use for this. But now I'm sort of watching a pattern of how things happen, and I'm starting to think to myself, like, maybe there is a way for me to get into this NFT thing and maybe turn this into some sort of a way to generate some wealth, you know? So,
Yeah, well, like, because for me, it's like the whole crypto thing. It's like where people are buying and trading, and it's like
using it like
to
a
me,
stock.
To me, there's no real value for my life in it. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything for myself other than just accumulating money, which is cool. But like, I like the idea of being able to create something that's unique and interesting and either maybe educational or whatever it is. That's something that brings like passion and love out of me.
You're creating
I can
something
create
unique
it
that's a representation of your own creativity. Yeah, sure.
and then be able to make money on that. Like,
Sure.
or people are finding a benefit in it and loving it, and then it's just like that reciprocation of like, I'm doing something cool and interesting and fun. People are benefiting from it, and I'm making money on it. It's this cycle of, you know what I mean? And that's what it feels like can really happen on Web 3.0. This user-based thing where it's like everyone can. It sounds like there's more room for creativeness. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like more creative, and it sounds more like you're not being controlled by these centralized. What it says decentralized, platform. So it's like that just sounds like it's going to be more of an open world for the creator, for the user. So that sounds exciting for me. That sounds really cool. And so that's the beautiful thing is if you go in with the knowledge and wisdom of like, all right, I'm going to use this purely for my creative intellect, or for learning, or for knowledge, or for those like purposes, you go into it for that, and not just to just be a zombie and let the metaverse take you over and fall into that world. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I feel like it can be very beneficial. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And then I'm very curious of like how we can use Web 3.0 without the virtual reality. Like if you don't want to take part in the virtual reality aspect of it,
can you?
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe King fucking Zuck is gonna make you like jack into the fucking Matrix if you want to watch a goddamn video.
Yeah,
you know?
But I'm sure it won't be like that because you're still gonna need to be able to access Web 3.0 when you're on the subway or when you're riding your bike or something or whatever. You're in a car or whatever
Why
it is.
Would you ever
know
need
what I mean?
to do those things? Just go to work, put your headset on, and go to work.
No, I know, but
in the metaverse, you
but
don't need to ride
that's
the
obviously
train.
not
You
going to
don't-
take.
Why would you ride your bike? That's so fucking stupid.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
but you know what I mean. So
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Aaron, what do you think about that? I mean, are you interested at all in the idea of getting involved in Web 3.0? Could you ever see yourself getting into NFTs or creating some sort of your own digital content to brand as your own and profit from, or utilizing this VR space? Like, do you see yourself having any interest in web? Because I imagine there'll be a huge chunk of the population that wants to be saturated in it and loves it. Then there'll be a chunk of people like, you know, us that are kind of leery about it. But then I bet there's a large group of people who are going to want nothing to do with it, and they're just going to be like, fuck this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What do you think, Aaron? Are you interested at all in this Web 3.0? Like, do you see yourself wanting to use it, or, you know, dabbling in this whole like NFT side and digital content creation side of the new web? Or are you just going to be in that camp that's like, fuck this, you know?
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm worried about where this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry.
all of this stuff is just not. It's not something tangible. You can't get your hands on it.
Right.
So I just feel like, because I have a 2-year-old daughter, all I think about is the kids coming up and growing up with this in their lives, because we see kids growing up with social media and how it negatively affects them. Are we going to be responsible with this technology? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think the powers that be are too powerful. They have too much of an influence in this game that this is going to be positive for a very small percentage of people. I mean, that's why I keep coming back to the individual and how each individual is responsible and how they use this technology.
Right.
And I don't think individuals are going to be responsible. I don't think that we're going to be able to withstand the amount of manipulation and control that this is going to have over our attentions.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see that happening. So I'm really worried.
I agree with
personally. You know, the more tangible stuff I can get my daughter into, the better. The better capable she'll be able to withstand stress.
Sure.
And, you know, she'll be more mentally prepared and emotionally prepared for any kind of problems that are going to come up, because we all have problems, you know. It's just our ability to overcome them. So.
And it starts now. It starts at an age like hers. Because there's so many people out there that grew up in an environment where, and you see it now, like these kids that just grow up with like, oh, you're crying, or like, you know, you're, you know, getting an attitude at the mall, hold this iPad and that'll make you stop.
Right.
And like, so instead
I'm
of building
so afraid
up,
of that, man.
yeah, instead of kids building up a mental strengthening, you know, response to stress, or like learning how to fortify their mind to deal with stress or emotions in a healthy way, it's just like, oh, you're, you know, feeling, you know, some sort of emotion that's undesirable. Just distract yourself with this content. Take this content. Don't learn how to deal with your stress. Just look at this pretty screen, you know?
Yeah, like right now, I can't even get my head wrapped around NFTs or Web 3.0. And if we can't even get a handle on the problems of Web 2.0 with people right now. Like, there's so many problems that Web 2.0 is creating that we have no idea how to solve, or at least we're just, the people that are in charge are incapable of solving.
Yeah.
You know, so I like we're already moving so fast into this virtual world, to this cryptocurrency world. Like we're not even. Is anyone talking about the problems that are going to come? Like a lot of people say that we're in some kind of economic bubble. There's going to be some kind of crash and stuff. Sure, if you just look around, you know, with housing markets and inflation and stuff like that, dude, the future is looking really unpredictable, and I'm a little worried.
I completely agree with you.
As much as I can do to just work on myself and my family, that's what I'm going to do. Like the rest of this really doesn't matter. So when you ask me, am I going to be a little leery, or am I just going to be like, fuck this whole virtual world? I don't know. You know, just take it one day at a time.
Sure.
You know, be open-minded to it. I'm not against technology. I love technology. I think of myself as kind of tech-savvy, and, you know, I use programs for work all day, you know. So I love social media. So it's just about, that's what it really comes down to, is personal responsibility. How are you going to let this take over your life? You know?
Right.
I think that's what needs to be the message. Awareness, you know, compassion, open-mindedness, and not just like full dive head into this thing, you know? I know you might want kids one day. So what is your mindset thinking in going into like how you would raise a child and what you would do with this technology in their lives? You know, because what I try to do is limit screen time first off.
Right. No. No, you're right. I think about it all the time, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. And we've talked about it on this podcast before when you came on. I think the episode was how to raising your child during the pandemic or apocalypse or something like that. If you want to go see that episode, we talked a lot about that. But you know what I think about the Web 3.0 is that, you know, right now we're seeing everyone being forced to have either a smartphone on you or having some way of accessing the internet to just do simple things in life, whether it's going to a game, going sit down to eat. Now you have to pull up the menu on your phone, or little things like that, where it's like society is integrating this technology, and it's moving in that way so rapidly that it's no longer about like it's just forcing people to have to adapt to it, right? So it's like
all right, so you're saying, you know, a lot of the technology now, it's like not even a choice for us to be a part of. Like kids having to do virtual classes and stuff at school.
No, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Is this fact that whether you like it or not, this technology is going to be integrated in our society, at least if you live in major cities around the world, you know? And I feel like it's not going to matter whether you want it or not, or whether you want to be a part of it or not. I feel like it's going to be forced upon people, whether through just natural progression of technology and just people just trying to have a better ease of life, or just making things more convenient. At least that's how people are going to see it. You know what I mean? So, whenever we talk about, like, you know, if we're going to want to take part of Web 3.0 or not, it's like, I feel like a lot of people aren't going to have that choice. It's going to be just like Web 2.0. Like, how many people use the internet for work? How many people use the internet just to get around town? Like, you know, nobody just agreed that, oh yeah, let's all use the internet. It's going to be great. No, it was just like, here's the internet. Now it's upon you, and everyone just took it and ran with it, you know? So it's like, and, you know, I think it's going to be the same way whenever in 20 years from now, everyone's going to be on the internet. I can't see just your average person not using the internet ever again, you know? So it's like, it's a part of our society and life and culture, and I think it's going to be here to stay for as long as humans are around, you know? Some version of the internet, you know?
Yeah.
So just imagine 100 years from now, where's the internet going to be? Where is technology going to be, and how is it going to be integrated in our lives? So it's already such a huge part. We're using such basic systems and functions right now that it, you know, it's still a part of our lives, but it's not like taking over our lives. It is some people already, but I can't imagine 100 years from now, you know?
Yeah. So raising a child, what approach would you take? Would you do a limiting approach, or would you do like how controlling do you think we need to be as parents when it comes to the usage of the internet and social media? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm of the thought that I want to put my kid in a school where at least like 2-3 times a week, the teachers take them out into the woods or into nature or to a river, mountain, wherever, get them out into nature and let them explore and teach them things about nature and do these like learning experiments while they're in nature
Yeah.
for like majority of their childhood. I want them to be in nature majority of their childhood, whether it's, outside, just outdoors doing something, because I feel like that's where a lot of wisdom comes from, and it's not going to come from it. I mean, it's definitely going to be areas that are going to be great for learning on the internet, but I feel like there's just so much life already here in our planet, in our real world, not the virtual world, and there's just so much to learn with just being out in nature, whether it's watching birds, squirrels and deer and whatever, just like watching nature be. There's so much wisdom there, and there's so much to learn and to grow in there, and it's just overall more healthy for you just to be outside getting vitamin D, and you know what I mean, and just being able to run around, to exercise and interact with other people. And so it's like that is where I want my child to be. Everything else is really going to be secondary, at least me, so whether they're in a school that's going to promote that or not, I'm going to be doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take them out. We're going to go fishing and doing whatever, right? So, and then everything else, like, I'll still use the internet with them to learn. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be, like, for me, I'm going to use it for purely educational purposes, we'll watch movies here and there. You know what I mean? Like, we'll still enjoy that. Like, but I don't want that to be a prominent thing in their life, Like, I want the internet to be a very, like a cookie, you know what I mean? At night you can have your cookie or whatever it is that your treat is. It's going to be treated like a treat and not like some main form of entertainment and function for their lives,
Yeah, consumption. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, is social media and this whole Web 3.0 thing being so intrusive,
right,
that it limits your experience outside of it, with whether that's in, like you were saying, in nature or with other people or other kids, and that limit, that lack of experience in the real world has an effect on how you grow up and the decisions you make and your ability to withstand stresses.
Right, and at this moment, humans were evolved or born, however you look at it, to be in nature. We are nature. We're a part of this world. We're a part of this planet and this universe, right? We've evolved to interact in that world, right? And now we're creating this virtual world and virtual internet. We're not designed for that, right? At least not now. Maybe we'll evolve and just completely integrate. And this is where Elon Musk and a lot of people think, where humans will go. Eventually we'll just be completely integrated into technology, and technology will be us and we will be technology. You know what I mean? Whatever that looks like. But right now, in this current form, we are meant to be in nature. Like, this is how we've evolved, right? And to be in groups with people and interact with touch and feel. And there's all of these bodily functions that happen when you're with people and when you're in nature. You know what I mean? So it's like, that is the way to be, right? Now, where does virtual reality play into this? To me, it's still not functional for humans to do that. Like, it maybe 30 minutes a day, but anything more than that just feels like it's gonna take over your life,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's why whenever I hear about China limiting kids' screen time, I'm not totally against that. What I'm against is the control they have, the ability to do that, but it has to be good for them. You also hear about them creating the actual content that they can watch.
Right.
Kids in China,
right?
It has to be educational stuff, projects, science, anything like that. Like, they have to consume some kind of media that has to do with educational purposes. I mean, do you think that's why like what I teeter on the fence is government control, what we can watch, what we can't watch, especially for kids, primarily for kids.
That's already happening in the U.S. Our government has a lot of influence over what people are seeing in the news, in the media. And, I mean, you just look at how much lobbying.
Right.
Look at the numbers. Can you pull that up on your end, Darren? Normally, Tom looks everything up. How much has social media companies lobbied with the government? Because that number
Social
will...
media company.
It'll tell you a lot of what they're investing in these policies and what's getting passed and what's happening, because they're both in interrelationship. You go on YouTube and try to watch something about coronavirus or anything corona related, there's going to be a little CDC warning right under your YouTube video. Okay, YouTube's an independent company, and here's government labeling on videos, right? So they're interconnected, and what, like, how does that influence what people are seeing, right? So
yeah, American politics is just trash right now.
So what I'm saying is, you say
Amazon,
China,
Facebook, other tech giants spent roughly $65 million in lobbying last year.
in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Like, you know.
Shows you that, I mean, we just got to get money out of politics, because as long as there's corporations monetarily influencing politicians, we're not going to get proper legislation. The legislation being passed is not going to benefit people. It's going to benefit corporations.
Oh, 100%. So when you ask that question, you know, I look at, or when you're talking about China and they're influencing what people can see and interface with, that's happening right now as well. And you know, we can see it with Google. We can see it with all of these companies who are, you know, are influencing what we see. There's been a whole bunch of cases come out where Google got caught for manipulating people's searches. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, man. So it's happening every day. Like, you think it's totally free. You think when you go online and the internet, everything is open and you can have the freedom to search whatever you want. But no, it's really controlled.
Mm-hmm. What you got to do is get on your podcast someone that really disagrees with you and Tom about these issues, because there are people that would say we need government regulation to control misinformation.
Yeah, look, listen to this. Google is
because
reportedly.
You and I agree too much. We're just
no. There's, but like what I'm saying is that some of these things, there's nothing to disagree with. This is just facts. It says Google is reportedly manipulating Google search results in favor of big business, according to a new report in the Wall Street Journal. Additionally, Google is said to manipulate autocomplete results to remove sensitive subjects, including abortion and immigration. So like, that's happening right now. I mean, that's a credible art. I mean, they're not making this shit up. This is Wall Street Journal. So, you know, what I'm saying is that's just fact. And whenever you have that happening, that's not good. There's nothing good about that, right? So, you think we're free to search the internet? No, this is already being controlled. Like, China's just doing it from top down, right? Here it's big business. There it's government. I mean, it's still the same things happening.
Yeah. It's that's why I actively look for other. That mean that we're seeing the results of that by podcasts and other forms of media. I mean, you just look at the ratings of mainstream news. I mean, people. I know you were saying to me the other day, you get information from podcasts like Joe Rogan because he has long form conversations with specialists in different fields that you can take something away from it and think for yourself. Here's some information. Now, what do you think about it yourself? Not here's information, here's what you're supposed to think of it, you know?
Yeah. And that's
like it's just this mob mentality that everyone should think a certain way, and if any dissenters are going to get deplatformed.
Well,
or,
yeah, just think about it. Like, if big business and our government are manipulating results and curating content or making sure that you're only seeing certain things or not seeing certain things, how is that going to influence people? You know, and then how is that going to look? And when we're talking about Metaverse and 3.0, what is that going to look like whenever some of these people, they're going to get in on it somehow or way. They're going to get in on Web 3.0, figure out how to get money off of it, and figure out how to manipulate what you're seeing, right? We talked about it's going to be very user friendly. I don't know what it's going to look like and how that's going to happen, but you can only imagine that these people are going to get their hands on it. You know,
yeah, to me, those buzzwords about explaining what 3.0 is like decentralization.
Right.
I think that's total. I feel like there's this promise of what it can be.
Right.
And then what actually it's going to be. Because, I mean,
but like, so Web 3.0 itself
is only
right, but Web 3.0 itself, it is going to be that. Like what we talked about, decentralized. It is going to be that. Like that's going to be the groundwork of it, right? Now, but we already see Metaverse is going to be operating on that. So, what does that look like? So, then it's going to be Google, it's going to be YouTube, it's going to be all these companies are going to have their platforms on Web 3.0, and I feel like that's what's going to be majority of people are going to go to. They're going to go to what's familiar. They're going to go to all of these things first before they go to any independent user-created worlds and things like that, right? So, you know,
scenery change.
Yeah. Aaron had to move around a little bit.
Nice.
I had some connection issues.
Ephraim's a
You know, I got a bookshelf behind me. I look like I'm intelligent. You know, I'm researching these subjects.
So
I got some nice books back here. I'll be catching up on my reading.
You look like you're in the Merovingian's house or some shit like that. Looks nice. All right, what did I miss? We still have a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Did you guys talk about a new topic, or are we jumping in where I left off? I know we probably only are going to talk for a few more minutes. So
no, we can just keep it rolling, dude, because we've been on the same subject. We can just keep rolling with it.
Okay.
Aaron, did you want to finish up your thoughts on it, or on anything we were just talking about?
You know, yeah, I kind of want to tie it back into the metaverse and stuff, because we're talking about government, you know, controlling our usage of social media.
I recently
China.
Yeah, so here's
Go
what.
ahead.
Go
ahead.
If I could read this for Tom, and maybe we can just explore on this. Google is reportedly manipulating Google search results in favor of big business, according to a new report in the Wall Street Journal. Additionally, Google is said to manipulate autocomplete results to remove sensitive subjects, including abortion and immigration.
Oh my God.
And it's on top of that, lobbying of big tech companies was around $65 million just last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the influence that these corporations, these tech corporations, are having on government legislation, you know? So they're not going to be making decisions for people. They're going to be making in favor of corporations.
Right.
So the ideologies, because let's just break it down to the corporation isn't a person. It's a group of people and their ideologies and how much of an influence their corporations are going to be pushed on to regular peoples and telling us what to think and not just giving us some just information to make up our own minds. You know?
What do you think about that, Tom?
I'm just thinking about, like, you know, whenever like something happens on the internet where something gets taken off or, you know, somebody gets banned or something like that, they go, oh, you know, well, it's a private service, it's a private resource, like you're not entitled to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the FCC or some sort of government entity has the internet spread its roots so deep into the fabric of our lives that the government or some entity should say, like, no, this is a public service. It should be, like, regulated by some. Should that be allowed?
Well,
should things be able to be, you know, should Google auto search results be able to be doctored by Google, or should it be kept, you know, open sourced and public?
The question is, how far does your constitutional rights go? Does a private company have the right to have to basically disregard your freedom of speech?
Right. Well, I mean, it's
that's
like,
the question.
But yeah, but is it a violation of freedom of speech if it's like, well, it's, you know, it's not freedom of speech if you're doing it on a private platform. It's like, yeah, you have freedom of speech, you have freedom to do a lot of things, but if you're in someone else's house or if you're in someone else's business or whatever, you can't do whatever you want. You have to abide by the rules of that private entity.
But what if that business is purely based on communication, purely based on people talking, right?
But it's
And
still
posting.
their business. They get to decide what it's based on and
Yeah,
how.
sure.
So what I'm saying is,
No, I know what you're saying.
but has it spread so far and has it become such a part of our regular life that it needs to be regarded as a public space or like an unalienable commodity for the public to use? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think
I
of
think it should.
yeah, I think of
think it should,
Facebook as
because
like a town square. Like think
Right.
of like a town square. People come here and they meet together, and whatever happens there happens. But normally it's going to be a lot of talking, communicating, and
Yeah.
interaction.
That's a
you know.
great question.
Right.
You know, because I think these social media companies have monopolized, in a sense, communication.
Right. It's like,
You know,
okay,
where
you want to
else are
communicate
people
with
gonna go to
people, but you
connect?
have to do it
Yeah.
on this platform, but we control this platform.
Right.
Exactly.
So should there be a new platform that's created where that freedom of speech exists because it's owned by no one? Or should the government come in and say that the existing platforms like social media, Facebook, all that shit, Google, those cannot be manipulated and controlled by those entities because it's a public commodity?
I think so. But what happens is that's not in the government's interest. That's not in the government's interest to do that, right?
It all
Because
comes back to the government not actually looking out for the welfare
Yes.
and the well-being of the people.
think
See-
about if you're the government, right?
Yeah.
Think about if you're a Democratic Party,
Right.
say, you know what I mean? We want to make sure we get elected back into office, or at least another Democrat. So if we're in power and we're in bed with these social media companies, oh, they're coming to us to make sure X isn't happening or is happening. Okay, how can we be in a mutual relationship where we can make sure they can continue doing what they're doing,
Right.
but also have an influence on what people are saying, or making sure this certain information is getting put out or this certain information isn't, right? To me, that's happening. And I mean, we just read that thing about Google, and we see what's happening with YouTube. We see what's happening with Facebook, where certain individuals are getting banned and others aren't. And then we see with Facebook where there's literally genocide happening in places like in Africa and other places through Facebook, and they are actively choosing not to censor some of that material,
Right.
and to send and but they have all the freedom and time to make sure Alex Jones isn't getting his message out, right?
Right.
So, but then you have people dying in other parts of the country purely based on incentives. So it's like, how can we do that? Like, come on, man, it's out of control. But you see that there's this interrelationship between social media and our government. Right.
Yeah, ultimately, the internet and these communication platforms should be, like you said, like the open town square type environment where freedom of speech exists, freedom to express any opinion should exist, but then that would imply that space would have to be created by a government that wanted that to exist for the people. And it comes back to, there's no benefit in that for them. So it sucks because it's like what we could have in the space that we should have, and like a much more beneficial internet and common space could exist, but it never will because of greed and conflicting interests, on a higher level. So it's frustrating. So I want to say I believe that like that shit should be not allowed. Like Facebook scrubbing stuff and like Google changing search results, like it shouldn't be allowed. But I also understand why it's allowed. I also understand that it's technically their property. I understand that it's technically a private service,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
think
really-
though,
it's frustrating.
But I do think that the Constitution should extend through that. It should be able to, if you're going to create a platform where there is open conversation and open of freedom of communication, then that should extend. Your freedom of right should extend there, right? To say someone can say one thing and not another is very dangerous, right? And we can see that. We've seen, like we just mentioned, if anyone hasn't seen this, look up Facebook's involvement in this genocides happening in other parts of the world. They're involved in this, and
Genocides?
yeah, dude, Mark Zuckerberg, look it up. Mark Zuckerberg was apologizing in front of, I think it was the Senate or somebody, for these things happening. Here, I'm gonna look it up real quick.
What part of the world are we talking about? this happening in?
I think Africa and India.
What?
Yeah, genocide incited on
well,
Facebook.
That's the result of Facebook's
That's a Black Mirror episode.
moderating its content inside the U.S. and outside the U.S.
Mm.
Their spending on moderation and in the United States is like 90%, and the rest 10% is the rest of the world. And then on top of that, the majority of Facebook users are not in the United States.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's a conflict of interest in their who and how they want to influence people,
right,
and where in the world, you know?
Damn, that's a crazy thing. We always think about Facebook as like an American service, and it is.
No,
it's headquartered
yeah.
here. But I mean, just the fact that the amount of users outside of the U.S. like trumps the amount.
Yeah, here's the article. It says Facebook has said it agrees with a report that found it had failed to prevent its platform being used to incite, here's quote unquote, incite offline violence in Myanmar. In Myanmar, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The independent report commissioned by Facebook said the platform had created an enabling environment for the proliferation of human rights abuse. So, and this is just one place, but this has happened across the world in many places where they knew this was happening and didn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they what would be okay with that is if they didn't do anything about anything else here in the U.S. or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just an open platform for everybody. But they're actively controlling things happening here in the U.S. and not in other places around the world. So what does that say to you, right? Like, they're actively going out of their way for people here in the U.S. for minor things that are just like little political
right,
posts and stuff like that, where they're going after all of that, but they won't touch things that where people are getting murdered. And you know what I mean? So it's like people's lives are being lost
They're
there.
like scrubbing content if someone says anything about the vaccine, but
Yeah.
people in other parts of the world are posting things that are leading to murders and genocides, and they're just like,
So there you go. Like, I mean, and that's the same company creating the Metaverse. So what is that going to look like?
Guys, we can't trust these companies, man.
Yeah.
Can't trust them. Doesn't matter what they say or how they say it.
Yeah.
I don't trust them. I don't trust anybody.
I don't
trying
trust them
to
either.
influence your attention.
Yeah, and that's
Anyone
why
trying to grab your attention, I say away with it.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I think that's why I really, I don't know. I hope I don't end up becoming a hypocrite, but I really plan on trying to distance myself from the metaverse and from Web 3.0. I have really no desire to buy a VR headset. I have no desire to get into this VR sphere. So I'm gonna.
Adam had a good point about. I asked him about how you would parent a child's usage of this technology.
Me personally,
and he had a good point about. No, I was asking Adam about it when you stepped out, and he was saying, how much of it will be a choice in the future. Where we're already seeing kids having to be on laptops and attend classes online and stuff like that, mandatory, So
yeah, what if that's just the only
this,
school,
Yeah, at what point is this just going to be a part of our lives, and you can't choose to unplug?
Mm-hmm.
If you have no choice, you have to have an iPhone to show whatever papers or documents, or you have to have an iPhone to communicate with family.
Right. I mean,
there's no more landlines. There's nothing like that,
Well, I've talked about it before on the show, but I've been in numerous sporting events where they say there are no paper tickets that will be accepted. You must have an e-ticket to present at the gate, which means you must have a smart device to go to an event.
Or have a friend who has one.
Or have, which is fucking insane.
Yeah, so think about what is, when I look at the future of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, this pandemic and coronavirus situation has only made it easier for these tech companies to take advantage of this opportunity and say, look, you don't need to go outside of your house anymore. We can get your groceries delivered. You can order anything you need through Amazon. We're going to have this VR virtual reality world where, forget Zoom, you can just plug into a VR world and create your own environment, work at a desk, have all of your coworkers all around you. You never have to step into an office again. You can just go into your VR office and do anything you want there or need there. Everything will be there, and you never have to leave your house. What an amazing world that would be, right? That's the image they're painting. So, what is that going to look like in 20, 30 years from now, right? So, to me, it's like our society is going to be just continually more and more integrated. And this is what Elon Musk talked about and a lot of other people talk about, where they see a world where humans become technology and technology becomes human. We're just interconnected in a way that's just complete integration.
Mm.
And
Man,
that
we're
just seems
gonna
crazy.
see-
So
I'm predicting if we don't align this kind of technology with our values as what we and our morals of what we think is right and wrong and our connection to other people and family and friends, if we don't align this with that, we're just going to continue to see skyrocketing depression, anxiety that for users that use this all the time. I mean, the more you use this technology, the higher rate you have of anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
So that's just gonna, and then like you were saying, Adam, the pandemic just exacerbated the use of media. So it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse unless we align it. Like the actual technology isn't bad, we just have to align it with our values. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And that's the hardest part, though. Because
is
the
the hardest part.
potential is great. It's just the values have to be there. The self-control has to be there. The morality,
Self-control, right.
the morality has to be
yeah,
there.
and then what is one of the dominant forces in our capitalistic society is make money. And when you have Web 3.0, there's going to be a lot of people trying to make money on it. There's going to be a lot of people just trying to get your dollar or make a dollar on this service, and that's ultimately, I think, is what's going to control and what's going to push Web 3.0 is a lot of people are going to be on here trying to make money. And what is that gonna? How is that going to? What kind of world is that going to paint on Web 3.0? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Fuck. All right.
it's crazy.
Well, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up before we go, because I know we all have things we need to do today. Did you guys have PlayStation 3s? Did you have PlayStation 3 or did you have Xbox 360?
Xbox 360.
we were 360s.
So you guys didn't have PlayStation 3 at all, ever.
No.
So you wouldn't have remembered something called PlayStation Home?
Is that where everyone Avatar can go meet up? Yeah, I remember that.
Aaron, do you remember PlayStation Home?
Mm-mm.
All right. PlayStation Home, let me tell you about this, and then we can go, because it's eerily similar, and it was like the second I saw Metaverse, I immediately thought, that's just more badass PlayStation Home. All right, so PlayStation Home came out in, I think, like 2008. It came out like around, PS3 had just come out, it had maybe been out for a year. They launched this service called PlayStation Home, and that's what they called it. They called it a service. It wasn't called a game. It wasn't called whatever.
Yeah.
And we're launching this new free service called PlayStation Home. It was on every PlayStation. You didn't have to use it, but you could use it. It was there. Sony in Japan didn't see an interest for it. It was all lobbied for by this guy. I believe his name was Mark Harrison, who was the head of Sony and PlayStation, the European division. And, this was like the dawn of online games. They had kind of started to mess around with gaming online in that PS2 360 generation, but it wasn't really there. They were like laying the groundwork. PS3 online was becoming a huge thing. When 360 and PS3 came out, there was Xbox Live, and there was the dawn of PlayStation Network. And PlayStation didn't have a lot of games at first. Xbox 360 was like credited for having way more games at launch, and so he was like, all right, we need to come up with our own unique space, unique to PlayStation, that makes our network have some appeal. So they created PlayStation Home. PlayStation Home allowed you to create an avatar. That avatar could wear clothes, look like you, have mannerisms that were like you, and you had a space. You had an actual, everyone started with a studio apartment, and you could purchase furniture for that place. You could also buy other places, buy like a mansion. You could buy all kinds of different digital spaces for your character to inhabit. Then the whole thing was set up like a town. There was a town square. It had a shopping mall. It had a movie theater. It had an arcade. It had a bowling alley. It had all this shit. The mall had stores that were actual brands in real life. You could walk your avatar into the... I swear to God, I played this shit so much as a kid. You could walk into the mall, walk into an actual store that exists in real life, buy those real clothes, and dress yourself like you would in real life. Then you could invite people back to your house. You could voice chat with them. You could text chat with them. You could go to places. There was a movie theater. You could sit there and watch... There weren't like real movies, but they were like little videos that PlayStation would put out, little like shorts, cartoons, and shit. You could go to a bowling alley and play mini games, and y'all could all sit there and talk while you were doing this. And it failed. It didn't succeed. It ran for 7 years. It was on from 2008 to 2015, and eventually, like, usership dwindled down, and then they just like killed the servers. Or what PS4 came out and they just killed it. They didn't carry it over to the next. But apparently, it made some money. Like it made millions of dollars, but it ultimately failed.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, could Metaverse just fail? Like I mean, obviously Metaverse is way more immersive. You're in VR, so it's basically PlayStation Home on steroids. I just think it's really interesting that this happened before. Like someone had this idea 15 years ago and tried to create it. And you know what? I went back and I watched the press conference where they announced it. Do you know what they called it when it came out?
What?
They said, this is Game 3.0.
Mm-hmm.
They said that. They said that same shit. I went back and watched it last night. So I guess like Game 1.0 was just like when you're playing single player, like fucking, Pong or whatever, all the way through just playing single player. Game 2.0 came about with the dawn of multiplayer, online multiplayer, being able to play local access games and stuff like that on local access networks or, MMORPGs, World of Warcraft, all that shit. Game 3.0 was this next phase of interconnectivity where everyone had their own digital avatar and was connecting in the game space. I just think it's really weird and interesting that they were calling it Game 3.0. It was almost identical. Granted, the graphics were a lot worse and there was no VR, but it was almost identical to the Metaverse. And now they have the Metaverse and they're calling it Web 3.0.
They definitely got that through PC gaming because those are some of the first PC games where users were just create avatars, jump into a world.
IMVU or whatever, where everyone looked like a fucking Bratz doll and they were walking around and shit. Remember that?
Yeah.
You'd see like ads on the side of your screen on MySpace for IMVU.
I mean, those were the first real like kind of social media, if you will, like kind of platforms where these games where people would just jump in their avatar and people can be whatever they wanted. People were like horses and shit, like or whatever. You know what I mean? You could just. Those were those independent games where like people would just create these little worlds and like, that's what it was, and but why that failed in particular, I feel like is because it was too limited. It's too limited to like what you could do. Like it was only this one world, one thing that you had. Yeah, you can create different things, do different clothes, different house, but like that's it. It's like to me like that's limiting your imagination because like what I feel like with Web 3.0 is like there shouldn't be a limit. The only limit is your creativity in these worlds, right? That's the only limit to these things is your creativity. And whenever you start to integrate, or whenever you just say, "All right, here's your world. We're going to create a world for you," i.e., Metaverse. You're going to live in this world. Like I said earlier, it's constrained to their refinements, whatever the limits they put on it, right? And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of freedom and creativity, but I feel like where the success is really going to come from in 3.0 is people having the complete control over their own worlds. You're gonna make whatever you want. Whatever you want, you can create it, right?
Yeah,
completely from your imagination, as long as like there's obviously going to be softwares and platforms and apps that you're going to have to operate on, but there's going to be those apps that come out where it's going to give you that control, that ability to be able to do whatever you want, right? That's the cool side of it, right? That's the part where it's going to be like, now we're talking about something completely new and different,
right?
Something out of this world that you've never seen before or could have imagined it because it's going to come out of somebody else's head. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the cool part about it. But
fucking insane, dude.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it is cool. It's undeniably cool.
Yeah. There's definitely exciting things about it for sure.
Yeah.
So,
do you think this is like the last thing I want to ask you guys? You guys have all seen that episode of Black Mirror, 15 Million Merits, right? Where they're like every day they wake up and they like get on an exercise bike and they pedal for like currency. They're like powering some unknown shit. But anyway, they go back to their room. Everyone lives in a room and their room is like screens on all four sides and the ceiling. And there's like content constantly on. And like all of them have a little avatar.
Right.
And like they're like pedaling to earn currency and they use that currency to like dress. Aaron, have you seen that episode? I think it's like season 1.
I don't remember that one.
Okay, it's one of my favorite episodes
it's a great
of Black
episode,
Mirror.
yeah.
It's got Daniel Kaluuya is the main guy in the episode, who's the main actor in Get Out. He's in Black Panther. He's a really amazing actor. He's in Judas and the Black Messiah, plays Fred Hampton. He's amazing. Go, when you have time tonight, this evening, after you guys put Autumn down, you and Jesse are just like chilling, watch 15 Million Merits. I think it's like maybe season 1 or season 2 of Black Mirror. It's very early in the show. But there's a scene in that episode where he's like dressing his avatar and he's sitting there and he's like scanning through different clothes options for the day, and then watch the Metaverse reveal trailer. And I swear to God, it's almost a perfect copy of what Mark Zuckerberg is doing. And I'm wondering if Meta did that on purpose. Fuck, I'm not calling them that shit. I wonder if Facebook did that on purpose. Like,
You
I
should
wonder,
remember who they are.
Yeah, I wonder if Mark Zuckerberg was like, let's do a tie into that scene to sort of make that subconscious link in people's brain, or like, you know what I mean? I wonder if like they threw that in there specifically to look because I mean it's identical.
Yeah.
It's identical.
No, I'm sure.
And I just think it's so weird.
Well, so many things that we see today were based. I mean, people like creating things that were once in a comic book or once in some novel that they read, right? And that came through someone's imagination, and someone ended up creating it.
Right.
And that's the same thing with this. Like people imagined FaceTime. Like Tesla had a document where he was like, people will be able to instantly see each other through a screen miles away from each other, right? Like that's FaceTime, right? Like there's people who have already thought about
that. In 1890 or whatever. See each other through a screen? What,
Instantly.
Yeah. I bet people are just like, what?
Yeah, so, and people thought about virtual reality and augmented reality way before it was even a thing. So we're just constantly creating these things that people just come up with in their heads. And so that's another example of it, right? So,
yeah.
It's
pretty wild. Well, it's scary. It's exciting. But we're going to get through it together, guys. We'll brave the metaverse together. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's very easy to take a dystopian view of this whole thing.
Yeah.
I just want to keep looking at like the creative aspect of it, and hopefully there's going to be some cool things that come out of that. But ultimately, it might be the downfall of human culture, or we're just completely integrate into silicon bodies, and we're just going to live in avatar bodies.
Sure.
And that's just going to be our reality.
Maybe it's the natural progression of things,
We're going to look like Lazar there.
Yep. We're going to have
Not me. I'm out of here. Not me.
No muscle mass, just gray.
Count me out.
Our head will get really big to adapt to the...
How cool is it that The Matrix is coming out too? Because ultimately, like, what the metaverse is also another version of The Matrix, right? Or 3.0 is going to be the virtual reality. It's like another version of The Matrix. So how cool is it that this is coming out? And then, because ultimately, when I look at The Matrix, it's like a warning sign of like where like a dystopian future can go. You know?
I know it's really crazy, especially because this new Matrix looks like there's a lot of tie-in to like the saturation of media. Like there's that scene in the trailer where Neo's in the elevator, and everyone is like looking down at his screen, and he's the one person like, this isn't right. This isn't real. So I can't wait for the Matrix. It comes out on Wednesday, so that's very exciting. And then I also want to say this: you can edit this out later if we decide to, or we can keep it in. So this episode will come out on Friday the 17th, which means the next episode would be due to come out on Christmas Eve. I don't know if we want to do another episode or if we're going to call this our because then subsequently the next Friday after that is New Year's Eve. So we have Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve falling on the next 2 days this episode would come out. And then the Friday after that, I will already be across the country.
Yeah, big news.
Yes, in big news, I don't know if this is going to be in the final cut of the podcast, but I'm moving across the country to Seattle very soon. I'm leaving in less than 3 weeks. The podcast will not stop. Adam and I have every intention of continuing to do it. It will just continue
virtually
over Zoom. You guys will be seeing me the way you're seeing
Over the
Aaron.
meta.
Yep, we're gonna do
Yeah,
it
where
through
the
meta.
podcast is moving to the metaverse.
No, think about it though. Here's the way people are gonna be able to watch and listen to podcasts now. You go into your VR,
and you're sitting in the studio with Joe Rogan.
Yes, exactly. You're in the room with Joe Rogan. You're in the
sitting
room
next to
with
Jamie. Yeah,
with whoever you're podcasting with.
you're sitting next to Elon.
Crazy.
And Joe. What? I hate Earth. It's so weird. Yes, but I'm moving, so we have Christmas Eve, then New Year's Eve, and then I'm moving. So the next 3 weeks of the podcast, we might miss a couple episodes until, the dust settles and we figure things out. So if this is indeed our last episode before 2022, I just want to say it's been awesome doing this podcast this year. We started at the beginning of this year in February, and it's been a wild ride. I've had a huge blast doing this. I'm so glad we're still continuing it, even though I'm moving. And eventually you'll be moving.
Yep.
We'll be living on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yep, respectively.
And we should just call it Midnight Variety Hour, coast to coast.
Perfect.
So anyway, yes, it's been awesome. Thank you guys for listening. If you do listen, Aaron, thank you for always coming on the show and being a great guest. I think this is like your 4th time.
Yeah, dude,
on the
you've been
show.
on here for a while. Do you mind? You're just like a part of the show now.
Yeah, you've taken the record, by the way. The previous record was tied between you and Marcus, I think, or maybe you and Sosa for 3 appearances. You've now broke that record, and you're in a league of your own with 4 appearances. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
The next time we have you on, we'll definitely be able to talk about Matrix and our thoughts, because I remember the last time you were on, we watched the trailer and stuff, so that was exciting.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys for listening. If we don't see you before, have a wonderful holiday season. Have a wonderful new year. Spend time with your family. Treat each other with kindness. Fuck the metaverse, and stay safe out there in the cosmos. Peace.
Peace.
Aaron, thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.